It was a lot more comfortable this time in speaking in front of the class, partially because I had extra time to get ready because I was going first, and partly because I've done it before, so it wasn't so intimidating. But I liked how I had everything set up on the board. I do wish I could write in a straight line, but eventually I guess that will come. I like the get out now section that I had on the whiteboard. It's something my cooperating teacher does that I really like. That helps her 7th grade come in and get focused. I also like that I had a quote up in front of the board that I was going to read to them. I do wish I had tied this more into the lesson, and I was planning to, but I ran out of time. But I also like that I had them raise their hands when they heard a certain part, even though I know you could easily fake that in a real class. At least I had some kind of check on there to make sure they were at least paying attention to people around them, if not me. I liked this game. I do wish that I had explained the instructions a little bit more clear. It's kind of tough to do. I think that if I were to do this with an actual 7th grade class, I would have some kind of written instructions and notes on the board, something for them to see, so that if you don't learn by hearing me talk, you can at least see what to do and refer to instructions later on. I do like this game because I think it's a fun way of kind of looking at images and then words describing them. So it gets a little goofy, and I feel like in a 7th grade class we get a lot more goofy, but that's kind of the point, is to have a good time with it and not take it too seriously. I think it's a good introduction to looking at poetry. And that way when the students go back and read the poem later, they'll recognize these lines and be like, oh, that was the image. I like that students got back their original quote from the poem and got to see what their peers thought of their sentence or their pictures. And it was a good laugh, and I think it also helps just to see the progression, and that you can clearly see where someone's drawing went astray or where someone's sentence kind of threw everyone off. Even though art skills kind of come into play here, it's not a serious assignment, so it should be taken kind of lightly. But I think the point was made. I do wish that I had some kind of activity linking it that was a little bit clearer, but I think for the most part, students could see what was going on. At least these grad students, and I think that 7th graders, a good chunk of them can get it, and then I'd have to catch the other group up later on. But it served its purpose to get the class kind of laughing and engaged before we read the poem and moved on to bigger and better YouTube failures. I liked the activity with the video coming up because I thought that it connected the first activity to like a real skill, and I think the most important thing about poetry is the images you get in your head while you're reading it, and I know for some students that just doesn't happen. So this activity was kind of to model what other students have seen as they read, and to serve as kind of a checking point. If you don't see a mental movie, please write that in your journal, so I can go from there and what you need help with. I had come to class early, and I had loaded the video, and it was working beautifully, and then when I go to load it on the computer, go to play it, the computer froze. So even though you can plan ahead, technology is not always your friend. So that was kind of frustrating, and that threw me off for the rest of the lesson, but I think I did a fairly okay job trying to transition to something else, even though I was fairly annoyed with this lovely computer. I do wish that I had planned for that, and I think in future lessons I will plan for the technology not to work and have a more clear backup idea, because I made one up. I didn't make one up, I just kind of moved the lesson onward, but I think it would be more effective if I had planned for such an event.
Here, ready. Just refresh.
This is where I kind of got fuzzy, because I had too many objectives in my head, and I hadn't planned for the technology not to fail. So I made something up, but it wasn't really clear to me or I think to my students. So in the future, again, I would just have a clear, defined backup plan rather than floundering around. This is where I brought another objective into my lesson, and another thing I wanted to do separately, because the video was kind of going to separate one thing we were doing from another. And so when I said for them to find the image that they originally had and how much different was it in the context of the poem, I had liked that idea, but there's nothing really to tie it into anything else. So it was just kind of a loose cannon firing around in my lesson. So in the future, what I plan on doing is making the end of my lesson more structured, because I think I sometimes just kind of end. And I think with the time constraints that makes sense. But I want to make sure that in real classes, that I'm giving my students a chance to reflect on what we've learned and see the so what point of it. This one kind of just ended with me floundering around, cursing YouTube's name, But in the future, I'll definitely have a backup plan, and we'll improve from there. Okay, so this is